background than many of the women I'll be discussing today, I understand the choice between menstrual products and, say, food, especially as a college student. Sometimes it's just easier to make the things that you have last as long as possible instead of having to spend the money on buying something new. Even in the United States, families who are under the poverty line cannot afford to provide these supplies for their children or wives or sisters. Gina Sharma, a journalist from Paper Magazine, writes, "This often leads to girls having to resort to makeshift methods, such as rolling swaths of toilet paper onto their underwear, which only reinforces the cycle of poverty. Let's not forget the pain and discomfort that comes with menstruation, which is often debilitating." Education about menstruation and access to sanitary menstruation products is taken for granted in most countries around the world, but there are still many young girls and women who are suffering from the effects that poverty can have on the menstruation cycle. Menstruation in third world countries can radically change women's lives because women can be physically harmed, can miss out on necessary education and work hours, and can be financially hurt because of the cost of these products. So first, menstruating in third world countries can radically change people's lives because the women who are affected frequently don't have access to sanitary products, harming their mental and physical health. According to a study done in a village in West Bengal, only 36% of girls in urban areas and 54% of girls in rural areas were using homemade sanitary pads and reused the same in the subsequent period. Satisfactory cleaning of external genitalia was practiced by only 47% of urban children and 37% of the rural girls. This lack of access to products can cause infections and disease such as reproductive tract infections. This can forever harm a woman's reproductive system. This issue is especially apparent in rural areas globally, where young women have less access to sanitary facilities and less access to education about these things. In India, the topic of menstruation is something rarely discussed and is often swept under the table by family members, friends, and the community. In addition to the toll that menstruation can take on women's bodies, it can also change women's lives because of how the effects can manifest, making attending school or work difficult or impossible. For many young girls, menstruation causes them to miss school or even drop out of school because of shame and misunderstanding among the community about menstruation. According to a study taken in Ethiopia to determine the effects of menstruation on school attendance, more than half of the girls reported to have been absent from school during their menstruation period. Those who did not use sanitary napkins were more likely to be absent from school. 58% of girls reported that their school performance had declined after they had menarche. In addition, the qualitative study indicated that school dropout was common among girls who experienced teasing and humiliation by classmates when their clothes were stained with blood. This lack of access to sanitary products and education among the community can have life-altering effects on a woman's life, especially if this education is something that could cause them to have a better life in the future and create a better life for themselves and potentially for their future family. According to a medical study done in northern Ethiopia, during menstruation days, students didn't come to school, or even if they came, they didn't attend class attentively, thinking of the sudden leakage or the pain. They didn't come to school even if they had an exam, or didn't do the test with concentration when menstruation coincided with exam days. They didn't stand in front of students to answer questions, or to write on the board fearing the sudden leakage. Up until 2005, the Nepali people actually banished their women to huts outside of the villages called chapatis. They were forced to live in these huts until the end of their period and did not have access to clean water, clean food, or clean garments during this time. This tradition has slowly faded since it was banned in 2005, but still occurs today in some cities. Finally, menstruation in third world countries can change women's lives because many of these women aren't financially stable enough to afford sanitary menstruation products. In Kenya, average menstruation supplies cost around 60 cents each. This can be financially impossible for many women in the country, so they're forced to turn to leaves as pads or even pieces of old mattresses. According to a study done in northern Ethiopia, quote, girls from urban outfitters who had mothers of secondary and above education and families of higher monthly expenditure had more chance of using sanitary napkins than their counterparts. Clearly, girls born into families in better financial situations have more access to sanitary products, while those who are in a tighter financial situation do not have the same level of access. Even here in the United States, over 12 million women live below the poverty line and don't have access to sanitary products. Financially burdened women are constantly having to make a decision between two heartbreaking things: the food that they'll have to put on the table for themselves and their family, or having a healthy and safe period. In conclusion, I hope you're persuaded that menstruation can radically alter women's lives, whether it's in third world countries or in situations around the world. This is something I'm truly passionate about and wholeheartedly believe should become a part of worldwide education. Some ways that we can change this is by supporting nonprofits such as Freedom for Girls, a United Kingdom organization that is working to end period stigmas and period poverty, especially in the United Kingdom, but also around the world. Talking about it with friends and family and educating yourselves on issues such as these and learning what you can do to help those who are struggling. and by donating supplies, whether it's through a company such as Cora that donates menstruation supplies with every purchase, or through your local homeless shelter or nonprofit donating supplies worldwide. In a quote from Gina Sharma, ultimately what it comes down to is society's relentless refusal to see women's pain and struggles as real. Gender roles suggest that women are dramatic and delusional, which is apparent in the way we talk about menstruation, laughing off the physical discomfort of it all. This has to be changed. Join me in opening the discussion surrounding menstruation and its effects on women worldwide. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck was going on with my eyes at the end of that. I don't know if you saw that.